going over the eCTD requirements and timeline, some key information we want you to be aware of. Starting May 5th, 2017, so that's coming up next year, ANDAs, as well as other application types like NDAs, BLAs, and DMFs, must be in eCTD format. Starting a year later, May 5th, 2018, commercial INDs must be in eCTD format. Remember, do not send paper and/or non-eCTD submissions after these deadlines. May 5th is when our eCTD guidance becomes binding. It's very important, starting May 5th, 2017, all of your ANDA submissions are submitted in eCTD format. We also have some information we'd like to share with you about study data resources. So what's new with study data resources? Studies that start after December 17th of this year, 2016, must be in standardized format for ANDAs as well as NDAs and BLAs. You can go and look at the Study Data Technical Conformance Guide, which is located at the hyperlink on the slide, to get further details on this. In addition, with those studies, there are some new validation codes. Those new validation codes have been published, and they are available on our eCTD website under the Technical Rejection for Study Data. Please take a look when you have an opportunity. Now, as far as when CDER will start using the new validation criteria, for example, when will CDER start rejecting a submission because you're not following one of these new validation codes? We have not decided on a timetable for that yet. But once we do have that timetable, we will post it on our eCTD website, as well as communicate that through other mediums, such as webinars and conferences that we attend. Remember, submissions that do not adhere to the requirements stating in the binding eCTD guidance will not be filed or received. Please make sure you look at our eCTD webpage for further information. Now, here what we wanted to do is take a few of the must-dos from our eCTD guidance and share them with you. Remember, this is not a complete list. Please look at the eCTD guidance for that complete list. So here, you need to make sure that you submit electronic submissions using the eCTD version currently supported by the FDA. That's version 3.2.2. In addition, you need to make sure that you obtain a pre-assigned application number by contacting the appropriate center. You can find out how to do that, again, by going to our eCTD website. You also must follow the FDA eCTD Technical Specification Table of Contents, Headings, and Hierarchy document. This is a great document. It tells you where to place the content of your submission. In other words, which module, which section within the eCTD should your files go. You must also adhere to the formats and versions specified in the FDA specifications for file format types using eCTD specifications. You must adhere to the FDA PDF specifications. You must remember to use the eCTD replace lifecycle operator rather than submitting the file as new if a document replaces a document previously submitted. Remember, you can find these specifications and more in the eCTD Submission Standards Catalog, which is located on our eCTD website. Another important item to remember is that when you submit your ANDA through eCTD, you must include an FDA fillable 356H form. This enables automatic processing of the submission. Scanned images of these forms will not be accepted. Go back to where we were. You must not submit paper copies of the application, including review and desk copies, when submitting an eCTD format. When it comes to using the gateway, we want you to understand that starting May 5th, 2017, any eCTD submission you send in for your ANDA, it must go through the gateway if it's 10 gigabytes or less. Remember, if your ANDA eCTD submission is 10 gigabytes or smaller, you must use the gateway. If your submission is greater than 10 gigabytes, you may certainly still use the gateway, and we even encourage it, but you also have the option to send it in on a USB drive or on DVD. Now we'd like to show you where you can find some helpful eCTD resources. As I've mentioned earlier in this presentation, our website is full of helpful material. So what you see here is a screenshot of part of our eCTD website. It's our landing page. And I'll call out a couple of things here. Number one is, please note the link to the eCTD guidance. You're able to easily click on that link and pull up the eCTD guidance. Also, under the section eCTD Documentation and Resources, you'll find links to eCTD specifications and other resources. Speaking of specifications, what are the specifications for eCTD? Well, you can see here on the slide to the right, the ICH eCTD Specifications 3.2.2, FDA eCTD Module 1, the eCTD CTOC, which is Comprehensive Table of Contents, Headings and Hierarchy, the validation specifications, file format specifications, PDF specifications, supportive files, and more. You can access all of these files under the eCTD Documentation and Resources section of our eCTD website. On our website, you'll also find a Getting Started section. Here, it covers things like eCTD basics and how to get going. The Electronic Submission Gateway. It has a link bringing you step-by-step instructions on how to obtain an ESG account. It provides instructions on how you can submit a sample eCTD or standardized data sample. We offer a process where we can validate a sample eCTD submission. There's also instructions on how you can request a CEDA or CBER pre-assigned application number, and links to study data standards resources. Again, this Getting Started section is right on the landing page of our eCTD website, and we encourage everybody to take a look. Lastly, with our eCTD website, we also have other sections, such as a section on guidances, presentations, additional resources, and where to go for technical assistance. Now we wanted to take a little time to talk about the Electronic Submission Gateway. If you are not currently submitting your ANDA in eCTD format through the ESG, we strongly encourage you to set up an account now with ESG. The process can take several weeks. Most submitters use the WebTrader hosted solution, and there's no cost for a gateway account, but you must obtain a digital certificate for each person in your organization who'll be sending files through it. Again, remember, submissions that are 10 gigabytes or less must use the gateway starting May 5th, 2017. And if your submission is greater than 10 gigabytes, you may still use the gateway, but you also have the option of submitting it on physical media, which means you could submit it on a DVD or a USB drive. Again, see the ESG website for complete instructions. The link there is www.fda.gov/ESG. We also have a few bits of information here on CEDAR eCTD processing. I have here some common reasons for rejections which prevent the submission from processing through to the review division. So our first one is duplicate submissions. You send the submission sequence more than once. So an example of this is you may send in your original ANDA with eCTD sequence 0001. And then a couple of months later, you may send in an amendment to it. If you use the same sequence number for your amendment, if you use 0001 for your amendment, our automated system is going to reject that submission because you already have used sequence number 0001. You need to increment to the next sequence. Another example is submitting to the wrong center. Here you might select the wrong center when using the gateway. You might be intending to send to CEDAR instead of CBER. Another one is mismatched application sequence type. So in this example, you might specify that your application is an NDA in the US regional.xml file, but the 356H form that is also included with your submission might say ANDA. You can see there's a conflict. If one says NDA and the other says ANDA, our system will kick that submission out and it will be rejected. Invalid file type. Remember, we do not accept file types like zips and exes. This would result in a rejection. And then finally, not in standard eCTD format. If you're missing key files that make up an eCTD submission, like the US regional.xml or the index.xml, it would result in a rejection. So again, all these types of rejections are things that would happen before the review division would even get to see your submission. All right, well, thank you for your time. And I am now going to turn it over to Dr. Julia Lee in the Office of Generic Drugs.